Back to the Future. We came up with the title before we came up with the content, so I'll come up with a new title here in a couple of minutes.
So today's panel is all about knitting programs.
Hey, we love our knitting programs.
Don't have enough knitting.
How about painting?
Yeah.
So I'm Jeff Tucker, Idaho Public Television production manager. We're going to start with a survey. How many production folk in the audience? Okay, this is kind of for these guys, so they know where to geek speak or where to not geek speak. How about engineers? I don't see many engineer types. And management?
They've met us.
Okay, you have your. You know what to speak in terms of.
The other question too, but who's actually doing it on live stream?
Yes. So the other question is, how many people at their station stream a lot? Let's say Flash, Windows Media, anything. Okay, how many don't at all? Okay, so Cove? Lots of Cove, good, okay. How many people have any other kinds of dissemination of content other than transmitting? VOD? YouTube? Okay, good, good. I guess we can put that into the streaming of somebody else's pipes. I think the getting the content out in many different ways, it's more and more normal, which is unfortunate because that transmitter on the hill is not being used less and less. It's just one of the tools to get things out. Idaho Public Television, we're in a rural state. We have 5 transmitters. We have up to 40 translators. Gosh darn it, we just got done doing that digital conversion, and now we have to send stuff many different ways. That's creating the infrastructure to have to kind of keep different things going. These guys and I were talking yesterday, and we started talking about how I get my information. I was thinking last night, I thought, the last time I watched something over the air, live over the air, was on Thanksgiving. Everything else is either TiVo'd or Netflix streaming or DVD or something like that. So, and they said I'm not abnormal. Any of you?
How about that?
Any of you do different ways of getting your content to your eyeballs? So there's just a few of us. A little more hands. Is there different ways so they can kind of get an idea? Okay. So otherwise it's over the air.
How many people have a Netflix subscription?
Yeah. Okay.
And among you, how many people have live streams, streamed it from Netflix? All people.
Okay.
You're all good at Netflix.
Well, despite the different ways of getting stuff out, the eyeballs are still on our side, so that's a good thing. So, introductions here. Jerry Field, APT, VP of Technology, American Public Television, VP of Technology. He thinks a lot about this stuff. In fact, too much almost. No, not too much. Last night as we were talking, this is a very big subject, and that's why it will do a lot of this. So just kind of go with us and see where we go. In fact, Jerry last night, it was getting so deep that he had the deer in the headlight look. He really did.
For myself.
I thought we should put on the brakes. Eric Wolf is the technology strategist. He's paid to think about this stuff. Let's bypass everything.
Not necessarily well, but
let's think of this stuff. Let's throw the ball way out in the field and start thinking about what we need to do and how we need to get there. So, in the spirit of being in the Music City, let's do a little bit of riffing. And I'm going to change the title right now to, what is it? I just forgot it. The new title is Shootout at the IP Corral. Gentlemen.
So I think we're going to talk for a little while, and at the end we're going to open it up widely. So get ready to participate soon and take notes and raise questions if you want to. Also, I guess we didn't mention Rob Bowl from CPB was scheduled to be here and is sitting in an Atlanta airport having a...
Actually, now he's sitting on the airplane eating peanuts.
Okay.
There you go. Got the update.
All right. So there we go. All right, so quick little agenda. We're going to do a little bit of philosophy. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the current products and technologies that are out there that we think are interesting. We'll talk a little bit about practical realities for public media. And we're going to attempt a few fearless predictions, which you'll probably all disagree with, and then you can tell us about that. And then we'll do a lightning round and a Q&A at the end, where you can kind of throw ideas out and we'll talk. So, a little bit of philosophy. We're both technologists. We spend our days looking at products, at technologies, at bits of this and bits of that. But I think, although we agree that all of this future stuff we're talking about is enabled by technology, technology isn't really the point. We're in a content and service business, public service and a content business, and that's not going to change. And in the commercial side of the business, that's not going to change either. I mean, the business is going to change in really dramatic ways. There are technologies out there that will undermine everything we think we know today about how we deliver a product to an audience. But it ain't about the technology. At the end of the day, you have an audience that values what you do, which is either to bring them content through television or to provide a service in schools or in the public in some way. And no matter what technological changes happen, that's still the key of what we do. Also going through this transition, our collective ability as people, as institutions, as groups of institutions to change and adapt to the times is going to be incredibly critical to getting through all of what's going on. We have lived in a world that has changed relatively slowly over the last 40 years, and the pace of change, as Jerry's going to talk about, is increasing, and it's not going to stop increasing. And a lot of this is also about public policy and how public policy shapes the industry and has shaped the industry, and how the flexibility or lack of flexibility in that public policy will have an enormous effect on what we're allowed to do, on whether the stick, as Jeff said, whether the transmitter continues to enable our business and be a critical part of our business or not. And on the technology front, this is very basic. There's an arc we're following. It leads to a pretty clear place at the other end. There are lots of very strange paths along the way. There are lots of questions about what's going to happen between now and then, whenever then happens to be. But it's all driven by Moore's Law and the corollaries to Moore's Law. So since we don't have a bunch of engineers in the room, Gordon Moore is one of the founders of Intel and made the observation in the 1960s, and it's an observation, it's not really a law, that the number of transistors that could be fit on a chip was approximately doubling every 18 months. And he observed that this was very profound for the technology business, because it meant that the power of computing was doubling every 18 months. And thus, what you could do with a computer, and he's writing this in the 1960s, there are, I don't know, a few hundred computers in the world, maybe. Personal computer hasn't been invented, never mind the cell phone, right? So what he was observing was that the amount of computing power you could pack into a device was doubling every 18 months. Moore's Law has essentially stayed true for 50 years, close to 50 years. And there are beliefs that it's coming to some limitation. On the other hand, there were beliefs about that 20 years ago and 30 years ago. But that is what lets you buy, and this is now a 2-year-old iPhone. And this 2-year-old iPhone has the computing power that the University Computing Center had when I was in college. And that's not a general statement, I actually looked it up. It says the computing power that the University Computing Center at a 20,000 student university had when I was in college. And I throw it in my pocket, and by the way, they just dropped the price to the model after this to $49, right? So that's been driving all of this. And there are corollaries to that apply to networks and the capacity of networks, and storage and the capacity of storage. All of those things, here we have an HD camera?
No, it's an SD.
Okay, it's an SD camera, but you can buy an HD camera that's the same size, right? All of that is driven by fundamental technology changes that are enabling enormous changes in what's going on in our industry and every other. And everything we're going to say about the future of media is driven by these things and ties to that. I'll move faster. Philosophy, a little bit more philosophy. This is not about competition between television and the internet. If you walked into the room thinking, these guys are going to tell me whether the internet is going to kill public television or kill television, or how we win against the internet, it's not about one or the other. All of these connected technologies, all of these advances in technologies are going to redefine what a show is. They're going to redefine what a network is. They're going to redefine what we consider television. But it is not that one thing is going to substitute for the other. Now that said, I would argue that we may be, that all these technologies are going to take us through the most profound changes in the history of television. So if you thought going black and white to color to HD, from mono to stereo to 5.1, from over-the-air broadcasting to cable to satellite to fiber, from all of those changes that have happened today, from broadcasting in real time to VCRs to DVDs to DVRs. If you thought those were changes, those are going to look like nothing compared to the changes that will be wrought. But at the end of the day, people are going to still call this television and they're going to watch it. They care passionately about what you put on the air. They care passionately about their shows, or in whatever form their shows come. That's not going to change.
And another way that it's commonly put at this point is that it's a mistake to think that technological change replaces anything. It's always additive. So that and every time there's been any kind of a major shift, there's always been the idea that television would kill the movie industry, that this would do that. But typically what happens is something morphs out of that, so the trick is to watch the morphing and to try to figure out where it's going.
And there's a graph here at the bottom that you probably can't read, but it's from Nielsen from about a year ago. Unfortunately, they've stopped publishing this particular report. But it looked at the trends in TV viewing and in video on the internet and video on mobile devices. And what it showed was that TV viewing continues to, first of all, be dominant, right? 90 plus, 95 plus, I don't know, we did the math at some point. It was well over 95% of our video consumption is happening on TV, in traditional TV in some form. A tiny fraction of it is happening on the internet, and not even a fraction of it is happening on mobile devices. But more importantly, as mobile device video viewing is increasing, and as internet video device viewing is increasing, traditional television viewing is staying steady, growing a little bit, dropping a little bit, depending on season and quarter. But at 140 hours a month of television viewed on television, that behavior is not being displaced, it's being added to. And then the other message about this is, there isn't one magic technology. There are a lot of people out there willing to tell you that Netflix is going to kill this or Google is going to do that. Yeah, additively, all that stuff is really affecting our industry in amazing and major ways. But if you look 5 years out from now, you cannot predict which of these companies, which of these technologies, who are going to be the particular winners. Can't be done. One of the things Jeff didn't mention is I worked for AOL for a number of years. And there was a point in time when people would have said, well, AOL's completely redefined what the internet is. It's completely defined what online is about. And we did. And that was 10 years ago, and 5 years later, AOL was unimportant to the future of the internet. Facebook didn't exist 5 years ago, basically. Google is essentially a 10-year-old phenomenon. I can give you the list of all the predecessors to Google that own search. Right? 10 years is a lifetime in the tech business. So don't imagine that we can predict, or that you can predict, or that anybody can predict the right answer to which technology wins. It's morphing, and following the morphing is interesting. So here's a map. This is a map of cable MSOs and where they cover. And it doesn't matter who's what color. What does this map tell you? It's a really interesting map. Well, first of all, the Dakotas have a real problem.
Thank you.
That was Jeff's observation this morning. It's like, wow, the first thing. So what it tells me is cable companies have a problem. If you are Comcast, as big and powerful as Comcast is, and I forget which color they are, they're blue, right? How much of the population of the United States can your business reach? 20 to 25% of the entire population. Why are they buying NBC? Because NBC touches everybody.